The inaccessible and harsh Alaska conceals corners where the majesty of nature neighbors with the inevitable cruelty of the elements. And nights full of fog and rustles make the heart beat faster with fear and awe. One of these places is the abandoned village of Portlock, whose sinister history is shrouded in myths, legends, and tragedies that leave a deep trace in the memory of anyone who dares to learn the truth about this cursed corner. Here, on a weathered shore, a once prosperous settlement turned into a place of unspeakable horror, where people disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and found bodies were mutilated beyond recognition, as if nature itself decided to avenge ancient sins. The misty taiga that envelops these lands emits strange sounds, like echoes of long-forgotten legends and curses, and every rustle of leaves suggests that somewhere in the depths of the dark forest lurks something evil and inexplicable. The history of Portlock goes back a long way. In 1785, British Captain Nathaniel Portlock first set foot on this land, and his name is forever linked to this place. His expedition was the first documented encounter with an area that later became a symbol of uncharted and hostile wilderness. Even then, the pioneers sensed that the rich and fertile land, which promised an abundance of fish, game, and elk, held not only natural gifts, but also a hidden threat that could not be explained by logic and science. Mysterious signs, unexplained phenomena, and a sense of imminent danger permeated every corner of the place, portending tragedies to come. Even before the arrival of Captain Portlock, Spanish explorers had traveled here, hoping to find new lands to inhabit and prosper. However, their expeditions were marred by unexplained ailments and bouts of panic terror that gripped the entire group. At night, as thick fog descended on the forests, the explorers heard piercing screams and strange, almost inhuman sounds, as if someone or something was whispering ancient incantations. One by one, they left the land, leaving behind only vague memories and stories that intertwined fear, despair, and inexplicable signs of nature. This is how the first legends of the curse hanging over this territory were born. Over time, several peoples tried to settle in these lands, seeing them as a source of wealth and grace. In 1867, nomads from the Sukbiak tribe, driven by the hope of a new beginning, came to Portlock. They dreamed of building their community here, creating a home where they could live in harmony with nature, enjoying the abundance of wild fish, shellfish, and elk that roamed freely through the vast forests. However, Sukbiak's dreams quickly crumbled under the onslaught of unexplained horrors. Just a month after settlement, the residents faced a string of terrifying attacks. On dark nights, when the forest was shrouded in a dense, almost impenetrable fog, strange creatures appeared from the depths of the thicket, gigantic in size and sinister beyond belief, unlike any known beast. These creatures did not come for food or resources, but attacked humans, leaving behind only bloody footprints, destroyed dwellings, and unspeakable chaos. Strangely, when game was plentiful in the forest, these attacks seemed temporary, but as the number of wild animals dwindled, the creatures returned again, as if harbingers of impending doom. Gradually, fear gripped the entire community of Sukbiak, and the residents, shaken by the series of tragic events, were forced to leave Portlock as early as 1905, taking with them only stories of what they had seen and what made their hearts clench with terror. But the story of Portlock did not stop there. At the beginning of the 20th century, the land once again attracted the attention of seekers of a new beginning. In 1921, a nomadic community of Alutiiq Russians, driven by a dream of progress and modern prosperity, decided to establish a town here where ancient traditions could be combined with 20th century achievements. They built a cannery, a school, a post office, and other important infrastructure in an effort to transform the abandoned village into a thriving center. However, even modern buildings and the latest technology could not drown out the ancient voices coming from deep within the forest. The legends of the Nantinaq, a mysterious creature, half human, half beast, rumored to have been passed down from generation to generation, were coming back to life. These tales warned that something lurked in the misty forests of Portlock that could leave giant footprints and remind them of an ancient power not to be trifled with. To protect their new community, the people of Alutiiq have instituted strict rules and precautions. A nightly curfew became mandatory, streets were patrolled, and key facilities, the factory, the school, the post office, were guarded by entire teams of armed men. On foggy days, when the world seemed shrouded in a mysterious blanket, residents stayed indoors, listening to the strange sounds coming from the forests, and tried not to violate the established security measures for fear of awakening an ancient evil. But over time, as confidence and seeming safety grew, people began to forget the grim warnings, and breaking the rules became more and more common. Such was the case in 1931 when a logger named Andrew Clock broke the unspoken rule not to go near the edge of a dense forest and went deep into the thicket in search of firewood. His disappearance was the beginning of a new wave of terror. Friends and neighbors, concerned about his prolonged absence, organized a search expedition, hoping to find Andrew alive. But the body they found shocked even the most stalwart. Andrew had been mutilated beyond recognition, his skull apparently crushed by a heavy sled that seemed to have been thrown across the snow and forest by a force beyond human control. Near the body were found the remains of his faithful dogs, dismembered and cruelly mutilated, which added gloom and horror to this tragic picture. This gruesome discovery signaled to the entire community. The forces lurking in the depths of Portlock were real and unrelenting, and nothing could protect the people from their destructive onslaught. Unsettled, Portlock continued to create its nightmare stories. Shortly after the tragedy with Andrew Clock, another local resident, Tom Larson, went to the bank of the local river to cut firewood and prepare fish traps. It was there, on the snow-covered bank, that he encountered an unknown creature that seemed to be watching him from the thicket itself. Before his eyes appeared a huge, thick-haired creature whose eyes glittered with an icy, unnatural gleam that penetrated to the very soul. Panic-stricken, Larson hurried home to fetch his rifle, but when he returned to the scene of the encounter, he was paralyzed by fear. He could not pull the trigger, remaining motionless, as if he himself had become part of this sinister tale. The creature slowly dissolved into a thick fog, leaving behind only cold questions and an even greater sense of terror that lingered with the locals for a long time. With each new incident, the fear in Portlock became more palpable and heavier. Initially, residents tried to attribute the disappearances and unexplained attacks to the harsh conditions of the wilderness, the unforgiving climate, and the unpredictable elements. But when bodies were found with deep claw marks, dismembered limbs, and injuries beyond natural causes, even the most rational minds began to question conventional explanations. Official documents recorded the disappearance of about 15 people, but old-timers assured that the true number of victims was much higher, and the nature of the injuries indicated the actions of an unknown, unnatural creature that could not have been the work of ordinary predators like bears or wolves. Eventually, in 1950, when the threat became so clear that there was no way out, the residents of Alutiiq made a fateful decision. Almost overnight, they evacuated the entire town in an attempt to escape the elusive stalker that had terrorized the land for decades. Of all Portlock's inhabitants, only a lone letter carrier remained, determined to stay behind to perform the last of his duties. He locked himself in the old post office, and on the last nights before his final disappearance, his voice, full of anxiety and despair, echoed through the empty and abandoned streets, accompanied by heavy, measured footsteps that made even the bravest souls shudder with fear. In time, the letter carrier disappeared, and Portlock fell back into an ominous, icy silence, a place where even the wind seemed to whisper forgotten terrors and ancient curses. One would have thought that after such a mass exodus, the evil that had terrorized the land for so many years would have retreated into the depths of the wild taiga. But by the late 1970s, new settlers who dared to return to this cursed area were confronted with the fact that the unknown entity was no longer confined to the confines of the ancient village. It seemed to have found an unquenchable hunger for human flesh and began to hunt far beyond the borders of Portlock, fueling legends passed down by word of mouth and reawakening ancient fears in the hearts of the locals. In 1969, a hunter traveling into the woods near Portlock in search of wild goats suddenly felt something strange watching him. At first, he heard the quiet rustling of leaves and subtle footsteps that could have been mistaken for wind play, but soon the sounds intensified into a distinct, rhythmic thumping, as if someone was slowly, inexorably approaching him. The hunter, panic-stricken, rushed away without looking back until a piercing shriek echoed through the forest, causing him to freeze in terror. This incident became another page in the ominous annals of Portlock, which is still passed on by locals, reminding them that something supernatural and unexplained may lurk in this land. 5 years later, in 1973, 3 hunters who decided to take shelter from an impending storm in the depths of Portlock's woods had one of the most terrifying nights of their lives. In the darkness, they felt something unnatural moving around their camp. Heavy, measured footsteps that resembled the gait of a human being, but simultaneously radiated a primal savagery and ferocity. Later, another group of hunters tracking wild elk discovered giant footprints on the soft ground, over 45 centimeters long. Footprints that definitely could not have belonged to an ordinary person. These giant footprints testified to the presence of a creature whose power and size caused genuine awe in even the most sophisticated researchers. Scientists and anthropologists who collected data from these sites tried to find a rational explanation, but each new discovery only fueled the flames of ancient legends, leaving the mystery of Portlock unsolved. Many residents of the region and experts believe that at the heart of all these terrifying events may lie the legendary Nantinaq, a mythical creature, half man, half beast, rumored to be able to leave giant footprints and have the power to defeat even the strongest hunter. Regardless of what name it is called by, the size and ferocity of this creature is staggering, and the footprints found and the nature of its victims' injuries go beyond what could be the work of known beasts. The legend of Nantinaq and the story of Portlock itself have become symbols of the fact that in the most remote corners of our planet, nature can create not only miracles, but also horrors beyond the laws of logic and modern science. Another amazing episode occurred in 1990 when a paramedic from Anchorage was called to assist at Eagle River Prison, where a 70-year-old inmate from Alutiiq was suffering a severe heart attack. As the paramedic tried to stabilize the elderly patient, the old man began to recount his adventures in the wilderness, recalling moments when he encountered unexplained phenomena and creatures in these cursed lands. But as soon as the paramedic casually mentioned that he himself had once taken part in a hunt in the woods near Portlock, something changed in the old man's eyes. His face turned pale, his eyes widened with horror, and he jumped out of bed, grabbed the paramedic by the shirt, and with a voice full of panic-stricken fear, repeated incessantly, "Did you see it? Did you really see it?" His words echoed through the cold corridor of the prison as the guards tried to calm his hysteria, and an atmosphere of ancient terror hung in the air, awakening in everyone present memories of the legends that had been handed down in these parts from generation to generation. Despite the fact that many skeptics try to explain such incidents by psychological effects, stress, or the influence of extreme climatic conditions, it is impossible to deny that the stories of the mysterious Portlock and its inhabitant, Nantinaq, do not arise for nothing. These stories are the result of human imagination encountering unexplained forces of nature, ancient curses and mysteries that are still beyond the reach of modern science. Everyone who has ever heard these legends wonders, what really lurks in the depths of the misty forests of Portlock? Who or what is behind the unexplained disappearances, bloody attacks and eerie sounds coming from the darkness that can penetrate the very soul. What do you think? Could a mythical creature born from the depths of ancient lore be real? Or is Portlock just a place where fear, superstition, and collective imagination have merged to turn an ordinary land into a cursed realm of shadows? Share your thoughts in the comments. We want to know what you think about the mysterious phenomena taking place in this dark corner of the world. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the dark secrets of the abandoned village of Portlock, if you felt a chill on your skin and a desire to learn more about the unexplained phenomena of wildlife, do not forget to give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and press the bell to be the first to know about new mystical stories, legends, and mysteries that can make your heart beat faster with fear and excitement. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episodes, where more mysteries, unexplained phenomena, and stories are waiting for us.